You can actually see the page in front of you. It's supposed to be staring at me. The Gemara says, I'm actually here. The Gemara says, Elamiyata, if that's true, had the chesiv ve'amori shmaya his romamta l'mane di base havi the ve'amori shmaya his romamta l'manai di base haisiv kadamach va'ant v'ravaveinich shegalasach ulechenasach chamashasin bahon. The Gemara says that did I miss a line? No, that's it. It says that one second. Yeah, so that it's pointing out in a verse that it's chastising Kollel Yisrael. This is by this pasuk is by, where's the, at the bottom it says the pasuk, usually from where it is. Whereas I don't have on this version, I don't have on the Gemara where it says where the pasuk's from. I don't know if you have but either way, he's saying that it's pointing out that the people were just inappropriate with all different ways of being inappropriate. And one of the things it says that they sat there and they had concubines next to them and shegalasach, their shegels, again, which whatever shegels means, and they were sipping wine. They were sitting there and they were sipping wine. So the Gemara says if a shegel is a female dog, a shegel will be drinking wine. Says shegalasach l'chenasa acharma shasin behon vi shegel kalbasa, and if the shegel is a female dog, he kalbasa bash mishtia charmahi, a female dog will sit and drink wine. So how could you tell me that a shegel in the pasuk is a female dog when we have a pasuk that says that the shegel was drinking wine? So Gemara says halokasha the mefalachlei v'shasaya, that it was trained and it drank. The Gemara says elameato, if that's true, the pasuk says tichsiv benos. Now this is a different pasuk. It wants to try to again prove that shegel does not mean a female dog, that it's not that Daryavesh had a shegel, which is a female dog, in front of him. And how do we know? We have another pasuk in Tehillim. It says tichsiv benos malachim bikrosecha nitzva shegel leminecha lemincha bechesem ofir. The Gemara says that the daughters of kings, meaning these princesses, at the end of time will stand next to you. They'll stand next to you, and their shegel to their right with kesem ophir, with like gold of ophir, with wearing gold of ophir. Gemara says so. It's praising at the time that Hashem, they'll stand at Hashem's kavod. It's praising at the time that at the time to come that there's going to be the daughters of kings will stand in the kavod of Hashem, and they're going to have the shegel to the right with their kesem wearing this gold of ophir. So if you're talking about praising Hashem at the end of time, and they're going to have a shegel, so you're going to say they're going to have a female dog with them. What kind of praise is that? So the Gemara says, "Ish shegel kabasa here." If a shegel is a female dog, Ma'ikam avasalahu navi Yisrael. What is the navi going and being mavasa? What is he going and giving? What's the good tidings that he's given to Kollel Yisrael? We are on the second wide line. Okay, so Gemara says, "Hachi kamar." This is what the Navi is saying to Kollel Yisrael. B'schar shechaviva Torah liyisrael k'shegel la'ovdei kachavim. For the schar that Torah is to Kollel Yisrael, like a shegel, like a female dog is to ovdei kachavim. Yeah, zechisem l'kasar ofir. The Kollel Yisrael will be zocha. They will merit to have this golden ophir, and some sort of adornment, some sort of beauty of adornment. It doesn't mean literal, but in any case, the Kollel Yisrael, it's drawing a comparison because of the preciousness that Kollel Yisrael has to Torah, like those who are into their shegel are, for them. So the the intimacy that they have with it. So the intimacy of the Kollel cells with their Torah. So because of that, they are zocha. They will merit to have this Kesem Ophir. And if you want, I'll tell you another answer. Now again, the problem over here is that it says Daryavish has a shegal next to him, on the throne next to him. So if a shegal means a female dog, the Gemara is trying to understand this pasuk. So one of them is saying that it's drawing a comparison. It's not that Klal Yisrael is going to have a shegal. It's that they treated Torah like with the intimacy like an Ovdei Chachavim would have with the shegal. If you want, I'll tell you another answer. La'olam shegal malkasahi. Now, that shegal does not mean a female dog in most contexts. V'Rabba Barlima Gemara Gomerla, he had a tradition that in the case by Daryavish, it would mean a queen. So the Klal Yisrael had their queen next to them towards at the end of time. But in this case by Daryavish, Rabba Bar Lima had a tradition that the queen of Daryavish was this shegal. Ba'mai karle shegal, shehaisha the chaviva love kishegal. And why is it called a shegal? That it was chaviv to him like a shegal. Inami, it's called a shegal. Usually means queen, but shegal usually means queen. But in here it was a female dog, and it was his female dog he treated like a queen. Inami shoshiva b'makom shegal, or perhaps that he sat because it was called a shegal in this case because he sat the dog in the shegal seat, in the queen seat. So it winds up with two possible answers what shegal means. Either it literally means a female dog, or Rabbi Bar Lima had a tradition that Daryavish had a female dog who sat in the queen seat. But okay, either way, not such good stuff. Okay. Iba Yasema, the coffee is beginning to turn my brain on. Iba Yasema, and if you want, I'll tell you another possible mahalach, another possible way of approaching to show you that Daryavish was minal and da'achmetz, that he became he soured. Mehacha, the pasuk says here, which we quoted earlier, I guess of karkin meya ve'chintin kairin meya ve'chamar batin meya ve'ad batin meshach meya malach di lo kosov. The beginning, Daryavish, the pasuk says all the different amounts. The pasuk says all the different amounts that Daryavish was sending to the Beis Hamikdash out of his treasury. Mikara below kitzusa. At the beginning, it says Daryavish started off. He said you could send without any without any limit. Just send. The hasha bekitzusa, and then at the end he says send this amount. So you see that he started to walk it back. The Gemara says v'dama meikar lo hava kimle bekitzusa. Maybe that's not a proof. There's no proof in the pasuk because maybe at the beginning he didn't know what they need. This is what they requested, and this is what he sent. Because at the beginning he just said, "Tell me whatever they request, and I'll send it." And then this is what they requested, and this is what he sent. So how does that prove that he was ichmetz? How does it prove that he soured? The Gemara says you're right. Not such a great proof. Ela mechavarta kidashnin meikara. That really use one of the other proofs that we said before. This is not such a proof that Daryavish went sour, and that is the end of that whole sugya. That whole sugya again until now has just approached that kings comes out that Jewish kings get counted from Nisan. Non-Jewish kings get counted from Tishrei, and Daryavish had different parts of his life where he got counted either from Nisan or Tishrei, depending on the beginning of his life when he was a better king, at the end of his life when he was I don't know if the end of his life, but later on when he became a less of an appropriate king. The Daryavish himself, halachically, was Jewish. It's just interesting, just if you think about it, and I have not looked into it. If you're going to count him from two different reigns, so you're going to have a lot of confusion on your stars, on your documents. I don't know what that means. So what do you reset the count? It's 3 years of his reign, and then it's 1 year of his reign to the middle of his reign. I'm not exactly sure what that meant on the documents, but I don't know. You might have a note on it in an article. I did not look, but it's just is there one? I don't know exactly understand, but it would be much earlier. It says before he was. I just don't exactly understand how did it look on the documents, but either way. The Gemara says, V'lo regalim. don't know. English is showing up on the bottom. I don't know how that happened. Okay, V'leregalim. And now the next thing that the Mishnah said is for regalim, we count from Rosh Chodesh. We count from Nisan. We count from Nisan. The Gemara asked. Now regalim means from the holidays. Is there? Can I just get that box of tissues? Regalim. Regalim be'achad b'Nisan hu, b'chamisha also b'Nisan hu. Why would you be counting holidays from the first of Nisan? So if the holiday of Pesach, which is in Nisan, is only in the 15th. So Amar Rav Chisda, Regal Shabo, Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. You're right. It doesn't mean we count the holidays, the order of holidays from the first of Nisan. We count it from the holiday that is in Nisan, which is Pesach. So that's at the 15th. That's of Nisan. So the Gemara says, so what is the nafkamina for that? What is the practical application of that? Nafkamina l'noder, l'meikam Allah b'bal ta'acher. Now there is a halacha that we learn out of something called bal ta'acher, which means that you're not allowed to delay paying your neder. So if you make a promise, you make a contribution, a promise, or be it in a korban, be it in money to the base of Mikdash, or in other places that a person needs to halachically give a matana, like meiser. You could have we'll see like a chichel things that have to go over to the aniyim, to the poor people. In any place that a person has to pay up what they are promised or they're obligated to give, you have a halacha of bal ta'ach. I mean, don't delay it. Well, where's delay? I mean, it doesn't mean by the end of the day. I mean, I promise I'm going to give the base Mikdash, but I got to withdraw from my account. I got to liquefy some assets, whatever it is. Or let's say lecha chichel peah. I mean, a person has to finish taking care of their field. I mean, I can't just keep running up to the base of Mikdash or running, every single time I make a promise. I won't make promises because it'll just destroy everything. So it'll show my it'll be very disruptive in life. So there's going to be a big machlokas over here, a bunch of different opinions of when a person has violated bal ta'acher, that they have delayed too far in order to in paying up their debt. So it says the nafkamina, the practical application of what is the first holiday is going to be for this Isra Bal Ta'acher. And let's say for Rabbi Shimon here, and this is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Titanya. There's going to be a lot of opinions quoted on the next page. Titanya. The Brisa says, whether a person takes a neder, they promise to give money, or they promise to bring some sort of korban to the base of Mikdash, or they makdash, they designate something as hekdesh for the base of Mikdash, or a person takes on the Torah amount that assesses his own value, which is whatever it's erich and it's some masechta of how that works. And kevish she'avru alav gimel regalim. Once 3 regalim passed over b'bal ta'acher, the person has violated bal ta'acher. So we'll have to see how this works, but if he takes what we need to know is let's say he promises right before Shavuos. So this opinion is going to say, well, if he promised the day before Shavuos, so once Shavuos, then Pesach, then Sukkot pass, he has violated Bal Ta'acher because he has passed all 3 different holidays. However, Rabbi Shimon Omer, and this is what we need over here for this opinion. Sorry, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Gimel Regalim Kisidron. It needs to be that all 3 pass in order, and Pesach is first. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, this is, I don't know why this is getting cut off. This is some reason zoomed in wrong. But either way, Regalim, Pam Gimel, Pam Daled, Pam Chamisha. That when a person takes a neder to bring something to the base of Mikdash, there are sometimes he'll have to pass 3 holidays, sometimes before he violates, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. Once again, the conversation is, how long do you have? When does the time start ticking? How long do you have in order to pay up your debt to the base of Mikdash or to anything else that you are chayav to pay up a promise or an obligation to give from your possessions? Sometimes it could be 3 holidays, sometimes it could be 4, and sometimes it could be 5. And the obvious understanding of that is, depending since Rabbi Shimon's of the opinion that you have to hit all 3 in order, All three ducks have to be lined up in a row. So it depends when you started it, because if you're in the middle of the cycle, you're going to wait till the cycle finishes. So if you did it before Shavuos, you have Shavuos, Pesach, Sukkos. Shavuos, Sukkos, Pesach, Shavuos. So you wind up with 5. If you did it right after Pesach, if you did it right after Shavuos, then you only have Sukkos, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, and then if you did it, depending, it could be 3, 4, 5. We'll see momentarily on the next page all the different opinions. Ketzad. So how did this work? Nadav lifnei Pesach. If a person takes the neder before Pesach, Gimel, then he just has Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos. Lifnei Atzeres. If he does it before Shavuos, Chamisha, then it will be 5, because he has to wait through Shavuos, and then again he has Shavuos, Sukkos, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. Lifnei Achag, if he does it before Sukkos, so then he's going to have to do Sukkos and then Pesach, and then he starts the cycle, because the cycle begins at Pesach, so he has to do Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. I just keep it. The order keeps messing. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. So now the Gemara is going to quote all the different opinions of this. Chayve hadamim va'erachin ve'acharamim ve'akdeshos ve'achatois ve'ashamos ola shlam stakos maisus bechor umaiser upesach. All the following, if whether it's money, it's erech and its value, different charamim, ve'akdeshos, different things that he donates to the base of Mikdash, chatois, his corporate chatas, his asham, his olos, his shlamim, and its tzedakah, his meiser. The Bechor and other Meisers, Pesach. Let me move to the next page. Pesach. There we go. Laket, Shicha, and Peah. Laket, Shicha, and Peah are the different forms of produce that come from the field, whether it's things he forgets in the field, things that drop in the field, the end of the field, that he has to give all those to the poor person. In all of these cases, Kevin Sha'avru Aleim Shlosha Regalim, once 3 holidays pass, over Baal Ta'acher. He has violated Baal Ta'acher. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Shlosha Regalim Kisidron. We just saw this before, but Rabbi Shimon says it's not just any 3, it has to be the 3 in order of the yearly cycle, meaning, and that is, of course, the understanding of our Mishnah, meaning the first of them is always Pesach. So it doesn't make a difference what comes before Pesach. You could have 300, and you could have done it the day after Pesach. It gives you basically 2 years then if you did it the day after Pesach, because if you made your promise the day after Pesach to give to the Pesach Mikdash, because you have to wait 364 more days until Pesach comes, and then the cycle starts, and you have to all the way till you've passed all the holidays after 6. Okay, v'chag hamatzos techila, and the first one will always be Pesach. Rabbi Meir says, Kevin she'avar aleim regel echad. Once one holiday passes, so over b'bal ta'acher. Now he's like super strict. He says whenever the next holiday is, you pay up. So if you did it, the day after Pesach, you have all the way until Sukkos. If you do it, Shavuos, right? I'm sorry, Shavuos. Right? Do I keep skipping Shavuos? I might keep getting messed up, but if I keep getting messed up, please just know that usually I get the holidays right in the right order, just not at 6:15 in the morning on Wednesday mornings. So, but in any case, or I usually look next. I look to my next door neighbors. The Simons are doing the holidays or whatever they do. We do. So in any case, so usually I'm sorry. So if you do it the day after a holiday, so you'll have till the next holiday. But if you do the day before a holiday, he's saying you got to pay up by that holiday. You have that one day to do it. John, if you make your vow the day after Pesach and say the day after next Pesach, would you get an extra year? Do not know the answer. Good question. I don't know. As a matter of fact, it's a very interesting thing. I saw that there's a Shagas Aryeh, which is one of the big Achronim. He writes that it happens to be Rosh Hashanah is called also a we'll see in the pasuk later. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur theoretically should be in the count according to this opinion. It's a little bit strange, but in any case, but we don't do it. He doesn't count those days. It's those 3 holidays. But either way, so you get till that one holiday. Now another opinion. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Kevin she'avru aleim shnei regalim over b'bal ta'acher. once two holidays pass, you have violated Baal Tacha. We've covered almost every opinion, almost every possibility, right? Now, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Omer, Kevin she'avar aleim gimel, Kevin she'avar aleim Chag Sukkos over. I don't know why that's not over aleim Baal Tacha. Once Sukkos passes, that's when you violated Baal Tacha. So we have one opinion that says 3 holidays, one opinion that says 3 holidays in order, one opinion that says 1 holiday, one opinion that says 2 holidays, and one opinion that just says Sukkos. Whenever you pass Sukkot, that's when you have to pay up. Okay, so that's the end of the fiscal years for these 5 different opinions. So my time at the Tanakama. So what's the reason for the Tanakama? Now, what's important to know is, and if you are, let's just see if I can do this for a second. I was planning on potentially showing this yesterday, but if you're looking on the Zoom, you'll see this a little bit quicker. But the verse says, I decided not to finish this because I ran out of time. But the verse says it right before this. There's a whole bunch of verses before it starts to talk about the verse that's going to be in question. It starts to go through all the different holidays. It says in the month of Pesach, you should bring your Pesach offering to the place where Hashem shows you, and then it says. And then in Sukkot, and then in Shavuos, you should bring your Shavuos offering and bring all your stuff to the place where Hashem shows you. And then it says in Sukkot, the same thing. And it has 15, 16 verses, all going through what a person's supposed to do in order to keep the various holidays and be Ola Regel and go up and bring everything that they're supposed to, their kabbanos to the Beis HaMikdash. So then after all that, it says, it says 3 times a year a person should appear before Hashem and don't appear empty-handed. And it says, what are the 3 times? It says Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. So the Gemara wants to know, and it says, don't come empty-handed. It says, don't come empty-handed. All right. So the Gemara asks, why is it that after going through all the different holidays and enumerating one by one and going through everything with 15 different verses, it ends off, it says, and all these 3 holidays, you should bring it all. Like you should bring it for these 3 holidays. I mean, duh, it took 15 verses to say it before. We don't need another sum up for one verse later. So the Gemara says, my time, it says, where, let's see, where did the verse end off? It ended off, it just finished talking about all this, and then it sums up and says, what are you doing? It says, it's coming to teach you that after you've passed these holidays, you will violate Baal Ta'acher. So it tells you the halachas that you have to do for all these holidays. Make sure you pay up by the end of all these holidays. You have to bring all of your kabbanas and your nadarim and your nadavos and your meiser, your behema, your bechor, your eruchin. Everything has to be. You pay your leket shechel pay. All of it has to be brought by the end of the holidays. And it sums up by saying these 3 holidays. That is the timeline. By the end of these 3 holidays, it has to be brought. Rabbi Shimon Omer Ein Tzarech Lomer B'Chag Sukkos Sheba. Now Rabbi Shimon says, really, now remember, Rabbi Shimon was of the opinion that that they have to be in order. So Rabbi Shimon's problem is much more that after it needed to say all the halachas of the verses, but the last one it didn't need to say. Meaning the verses went 15 verses of telling you the halachas of first, starting with Pesach, then with Shavuos, then with Sukkot. It ended off talking about Sukkot. So the 16th verse that's giving the sum up didn't have to mention Sukkot because we were already talking about Sukkot. Say, and also if you wanted to sum up and talk about the halachas of Baal Ta'acher, of not delaying your promise, if you wanted to do that, you could have left Sukkot out. You didn't have to mention Sukkot. You could have just said, and the other 2 also, just make sure you pay because we already talked about Sukkot. Why does it mention the entire cycle again? To tell you the order of the cycle. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. That Sukkot is last, Pesach is first. Shabo dibar kasav lama ne'amar shazeh achron. It didn't need to say Sukkot because it was already in the middle of talking about Sukkot. Why did it re-mention Sukkot? To tell you that is the last one of the order, meaning that you've only violated when all 3 have lined up in a row. If you made your promise anywhere before that, so you have to wait till the cycle restarts, and then you violate after the end of those 3 in a row. Rabbi Meir, my timer. So now what about Rabbi Meir? Rabbi Meir, he says when only one of them pass. So he's coming from a totally different place. Tichsiv ubasa shama v'avesam shama. There's a verse verse earlier where it says that a person should take with them and bring with them to the Beis Hamikdash, and that verse, it says that he learns out from that verse that when it's talking about generically when a person is ola regel, when a person goes up to the Beis Hamikdash, so from there he learns that anytime a person goes to the Beis Hamikdash, they have to bring with them all their promises. So he learns from that verse that there is an obligation to bring all their promises. The Gemara says, now that's a slam dunk because it does say that in the verse, clearly talking about regel, that a person has to bring everything that they owe for the regel. So it seems to be a no-brainer. So the Gemara says, what is the Rabbanan going to do that? For Rabbanan, how la essay? The Rabbanan say, you're right. We do see an obligation from that verse that you have to bring all your promises, but that is a mitzvah's essay. The Torah is telling you bring it. It's not telling you you violated a los essay, that if you didn't bring it. So clearly, there's a difference between a mitzvah's essay. So for example, if a person, there's a mitzvah for a person to wear tzitzis. It's a mitzvah to wear tzitzis. Mitzvah essay, it's mitzvah kumis. Person wear tzitzis. If a person does not wear tzitzis, they have not violated a los asay. They haven't violated a negative commandment. They just have given up on doing a positive commandment. Similarly, if a person doesn't shake their daled minim on sukkahs, if a person doesn't hear shofar, there is a mitzvah's essay to hear shofar. There's no los asay, don't not hear shofar. You do have some, however, that is an essay and los asay. So you have mitzvahs that it tells you have to do it, and if you don't do it, you have violated by not doing it. As a matter of fact, let's say take a perfect example would be fasting on Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah to fast on Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah shvisas asar, and there's a mitzvah not to. There's a losa say don't eat on Yom Kippur. If a person does eat, they have violated both. So he's saying that this is a mitzvah's essay and a los essay. So Rabbi Meir learned all of the mitzvah from here, and the Rabbanan said, no, that's just an essay. It's just telling you that you should pay up. If you don't pay up by the end of one holiday, you've lost the mitzvah to pay up right away. But you haven't delayed enough to consider it bal ta'acher. If you wait all three, that's when bal ta'acher hits it. For Rabbi Meir, the Amar le Rachmana Aisi v'lo Aisi Memela Kamle b'Bal Ta'acher. Rabbi Meir held no, since it tells you you should take and you should bring, so you have violated Bal Ta'acher. You have violated the too much delay by waiting till after that one holiday. It comes out though that according to both opinions, you would have a mitzvah to pay at the next holiday. It's just that Rabbi Meir says you have violated two averos. You have lost your essay. You have lost your positive commandment and violated the negative commandment by not paying after the next holiday. And the Rabbanan said, no, there's a positive commandment to pay right away, but you haven't violated a negative commandment by waiting until you've waited all three holidays. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, my timer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who said that it is two holidays. He quotes a different part of the pasuk. Eila tasu laHashem b'moadechem. It says that this you should do for Hashem in your moadechem, in your holidays. So it doesn't tell you how many holidays, but we know that the minimum of holidays is more than one. So miat moadim shnayim. The pasuk, since it specifies holidays and doesn't tell you how many holidays, so it must be two. So you have two holidays to pay up. V'Rabbanan, and what are the Rabbanan going to do with that pasuk? How could the Rabbi Yonah? That pasuk is for Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yonah, hukshu kol hamoadim kulam zelazeh shekulam machapran al tumos mikdash v'kadashav. All of that pasuk is just grouping all moadim together. It's coming for something else entirely. It's grouping all moadim together to tell us that the mikdash. It's talking about the tahara of the mikdash, that when a person brings the sayar, brings one of the karbanos with their musaf, they are going to get kapara for any tumah that's brought in the mikdash. It is a total different halacha than without getting too far into that halacha. It's a total different halacha than this sugya. Again, than the topic we're in. It just has something to do with tumah and the mikdash, that all holidays work the same way. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, my timer. Now, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon said that that's after I think just after Sukkot. Yeah, it said just after Sukkot a person is violated. Ditanya, what was his reason? Could we have an abraiser? Rabbi Shimon Omer. Lo Yomer Gimel, Lo Yomer Chag HaSukkah Shabo Dibra Kasav. Lama Nemar Lomar Shezeh Gorin. Rabbi Elazar Shimon said that really, when going back to the 15 verses and then one verse, so he had 16 verses talking about the holidays. The 15 verses went through all three holidays and told us the halach of all three holidays. Then a 16th verse came and summed up the three holidays. Rabbi Elazar Shimon doesn't have a problem with it summed up two of the holidays because, okay, those are 13 verses before. I mean, a person, come on. I mean, how long does a person have to concentrate? That was the three or four verses already. I might have forgotten. But the pasuk was holding in, it was discussing Sukkot. Since it was discussing Sukkot right before this verse, you don't have to tell me about Sukkot. Sukkot is the one that is superfluous, and therefore Sukkot, the pasuk's trying to point to Sukkot to say that is the line. Okay, so then the Gemara goes. So basically, again, we had opinions. Actually, for those that are the opinions look like this. For those that are online, you can't see this if you're not online. I did not print it. The opinions would look something like this. Do I have it here somewhere? Yeah, it looked something like this. Here's where you violated. The Tanna Kama is after Pesach. The Rabbi Shimon is after Sukkot. Rabbi Meir is after the next immediate holiday. I'm assuming that the person made their neder right by these green dollar signs. You don't see this if you're not on the app, but the person is right by these green dollar signs. So the person will have violated after Pesach, well, after Sukkot, after Shavuos. Here, according to this, because that's the next holiday. After Rabbi Elazar Shimon says always after Sukkot. That's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon says always after Sukkot, rather. I'm sorry. So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, I'm sorry. He said two different. You have two Moadechem, two holidays, and Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon said always after Sukkot. That's when you will have violated. Okay. Going back to the daf. So now, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yaakov. Hi b'chag hamatzah Shavuos b'chag Sukkos. My darshabe. Now. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov came from different verses. They didn't come from this 16 verses in a row. So what are they going to do with the fact that the Torah sums up its 16th verse by giving you three holidays in a row after telling me, after at length expounding on all 15 verses on the other? Again, we use 15 verses to expound on the three holidays, a 16th verse to do a summary. What are they going to learn from that summary verse? They used different verses to learn the Avera of Baal Ta'achar. So Hai b'chag hamatzah b'chag Shavuos b'chag Sukkos my darshebe b'balei k'di Rabbi Elazar k'di Rabbi Elazar amar Rabbi Oshaya d'amar Rabbi Elazar amar Rabbi Oshaya minayin latzer sheyesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. Where do we know that there are 7 days to do a tashlumin to make up your korban for Shavuos? So what we need to know is the following: that every one of the holidays has 7 days to bring your korban. So obviously, a person has to bring their chagiga. They have to bring their korban. They have to be ola regal. They have to go up to Yerushalayim and bring their korban on day 1 of the holiday. But let's say something happens. The person sprains their leg on their way up. That person, I don't know, something happens, delays them. They're not tahor yet on day 1. Whatever the case is, they have 7 days to make up the holiday, to make up the korban. Now that's intuitive with Sukkot and with Pesach, but Shavuos is a 1-day holiday. So in America, it's 2 days. You should try it in Eretz Yisrael. Person's living in Eretz Yisrael. It's 1 day. It's like it comes and goes. Like by the time you wake up after you daven in the morning, you wake up, Shavuos is over. It's a different experience, but it's also a different experience because you have to hear Rus in the morning after you what do you call it? After you've been up all night. That's makes it fun. But either way, but in any case, so a person has 7 days for that 1-day holiday. How do we know that? By the way, this Gemara is the root. There's always a debate in shuls after how many days after Shavuos do you not say Tachanan for? And it comes of how you look at this. Either way, the verse says it groups these three holidays together. Because it's making a connection between Chag HaShavuos and Chag HaMatzos. Ma Chag HaMatzos yesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. Just like Chag HaMatzos has 7 days to make up the korban. Af Chag HaShavuos yesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. So too, this thing does not always work. And now, there we go. So too, Chag HaShavuos has 7 days to make up the korban if you weren't able to bring it on the right day. So the Gemara says, why are you comparing it to Chag HaMatzos? V'leikish l'Chag HaSukkos. Let's compare it to Chag HaSukkos instead. Why did you pick Chag HaMatzos? Now Chag HaSukkos, it says Malahol and Shmona. Chag HaSukkos says 8 days because you have Shmini Atzeres. So also Afkan Shmona. So why don't we give the person who couldn't bring up his korban on Shavuos 8 days, not 7? So Gemara says no. Shmini Atzeres, Shmini Regel B'nei Atzma. Shmini, the 8th day is really its own regel. The 8th day, this is a confusing point for everybody. We're always confused about this. What is Shmini Atzeres? Is it a part of Sukkot? Is it its own holiday? You don't sit in the Sukkot. You don't shake the Levanesor, but it's not. We don't count it as one of the 3 holidays. I mean, there's 3 holidays. What is the 8th day? So it says Shmini Atzeres is its own holiday. The Gemara is, so we can't count it. Now we're about to see it's really both. And depending on what we're talking about, sometimes it's its own holiday, but sometimes it's not own holiday. And we're about to see that right over here. So here the Gemara says you can't count yourself as having tashlumin for 8 days of Shavuos, meaning if you didn't bring your korban on the day of Shavuos, for whatever reason you weren't able to bring it, you have 8 days to bring it, because Shmini Atzeres doesn't count as Sukkos. It doesn't count as part of Sukkos. So you only have the 7 days of Sukkos. That's what it's connecting it to. The Gemara says, what? What are you talking about? You're right. There are times that we count Shmini Atzeres as its own holiday, but only when it comes to certain things. Le'inyan, Pizar Kashav. Pizar Kashav is when it comes to the pious. I'm just going to look at Rashi over here. When it comes to the pious of the way that they drew lots for what was taken, for what honors were given out in the Beis HaMikdash when it came to the different honors of the Beis HaMikdash for the holiday. When it comes to it has its own shechianu. It's counted. It has its own name as a regel. So again, the pious, the lots, it has its own shechianu. It has its own name, meaning in davening we don't refer to it as Chag HaSukkos, but we refer to it as Shmini Chag Atzeres. When it comes to its korban, deviates from the korbanos of Sukkos. It has a different korban pattern than the rest of Sukkos. It has its own shir that they sung in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Levium sang a different shir, a different song in the Beis HaMikdash for Shmini Atzeres. And when it came to a bracha that they would give a king, there was a different bracha that they would give the king on Shmini Atzeres. So for these 6 halachas, Shmini Atzeres is looked at as a different holiday. For other halachas, looked at as part of Sukkot. So it says, "Aval le'ini tashlumin divrei kol tashlumin derishon hu." But according to everybody, you could still do your tashlumin if you haven't brought your korban on the first day of Sukkot. You could bring it all the way up to Shmini Atzeres. Did not, and we have in a Mishnah. It's a chagiga. Mishlo chag liyom tav rishon shel chag chagig. It's called a regel v'yom tav achron shel chag. Because it says in the chagiga that anybody that doesn't bring his korban for the first day of Sukkot can bring it all the way up into Shmini Atzeres. So you see that it is part of Shmini Atzeres. So now the Gemara is left with its question. We're back to the starting point. If you're going to tell me Shavuos gets makeup days, if you didn't bring your korban on Shavuos, how many makeup days do you get? Well, if you want to compare it to Pesach, you should get 7. But if you want to compare it to Sukkot, you should get 8. So why did you choose to compare it to Pesach and give us 7 and not compare it to Sukkot and give it 8? The Gemara says a klal that it says all over the Gemara. It says, so God willing, when everybody finishes Shas, you'll have seen this klal many times. Tafasta meruba lo tafasta, tafasta mua tafasta. Because if it's also it's a famous saying that people say also, if you're going to grab onto something, you always grab onto the less novel idea. So you grab onto something that's less of an extension, then more of an extension. You don't take on the bigger part, the bigger novelty. So over here, the novelty is that we're extending Shavuos all the way 7 days past it. So we're going to compare it to Pesach, gives you 7 days, as opposed to comparing it to Sukkot, which gives you 8 days. So the Gemara says, so then why is Sukkot written there? So the Gemara answers, in order to also compare it, to also connect it to Chag HaMatzos. Ma Chag HaMatzos toin lina, af Chag HaSukkos toin lina. because Chag HaMatzos, a person needs to sleep over till the next day. That means you're there for the night of Pesach, the first night of Pesach. You're there the whole next day in Yerushalayim, and you have and only the following morning of after the second night of Pesach, that is when a person's supposed to go home. So Af Chag HaSukkos Toin Lina. So too Sukkos, it's Sukkos, and is in that pasuk in order to tell you that they all need Lina. It needs to stay over to that second day. The Hasam Minolan, and how do you know that you have Lina for Pesach? It says Dichsiv Ufanisa V'Boker Alach Lo Alacha. It says that you should wait until morning in order to go back to your tents. So to the juxtaposition of them, the juxtaposition of them is tells you that you need to wait until morning to go back to your tents for both of those holidays. Okay, I guess we will stop here. Yes, yes, we will stop here. We were on 5. I believe Daf Yomi is on 4 today, right? We are. Daf Yomi says 4 today. So full ahead. Okay. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Yasha.